Good afternoon, and welcome to Surfside Beach, South Carolina. My name is Eric Weber, and I'm a certified engineer for Microcom Technologies, where I teach wireless networking classes primarily centered around the Ubiquiti product line. I recently certified as a CWNA instructor, and as part of the requirements to teach the CWNA, I have created this 20-minute video on a spectrum analysis tool called InSSider. So let's get started taking a look at InSSider 4 Personal for home networks. Today's class is on InSSider 4 by MetaGeek. MetaGeek has a spectrum analysis tool, and it's this one, InSSider 4, kind of cute, InSSider. You see that there's a group of different products provided by MetaGeek. There's an InSSider for Office, which is for small networks, allows you to do a little bit more than what you can do with InSSider 4. But InSSider 4 is a great tool for home networks and for hotels. So if you load this onto your laptop and you go into a hotel or into a new environment, maybe a friend's house, you can view, it'll give you a view of what the radio networks are that are available. It does not give you a view of all of the radio wave noise, just those radios that are broadcasting in the 2.4 and 5 gigahertz spectrum. So here's the tool. Here's the advertisement for the tool. It asks if you're tired of broken Wi-Fi, what you can do. It shows the InSSider, but what I wanted to show is that you can just go to their site, and for $20 you can buy this product. It operates off of the wireless card in your computer, so there's no additional hardware that you have to buy. You just download this product and you'll be able to get InSSider.4 for $19.99. So if you want to go to their site, metageek.com/products/InSSider, you can download their personal version. Great little tool. So let's take a look and see what you can do with it. I have it loaded on this computer. So Windows 10 computer. It loaded right up. It didn't take very long at all. I think it's about a 5 megabyte file. And so it loaded and went through the install process. No problems with any conflicts. Picked up my wireless card and started looking at the networks right away. So when you start up InSSider, it will scan for Wi-Fi data. And then it displays all the different networks that it can see. You can see that there's, up at the top, there's a logical and a physical view for the network devices. Right now we're looking at the physical, and it's showing me the physical radio addresses, and they are in order by their radio address. Now it might be easier to look at the logical because that gives us the names that is being broadcast as the SSIDs, and they're also listed in numerical and then alphabetical order. So B, then D, then E, then H, like that. So I initially can view them like that. I can see all the many networks that are in this 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz spectrum. It's showing me down below on the lower left everything that is being broadcast in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, and then on the right the 5 gigahertz spectrum. So you can see the 5 gigahertz spectrum is not very crowded at all. Looks like there's 3 different radios. Oh, there's another 4 radios that are broadcasting in that area compared to the 2.4, and you can see there are myriad different devices that are broadcasting in that spectrum. But let's take a look at the top and just get ourselves familiarized with it. So it'll show us SSIDs and then what channels they're broadcasting on. So you can see that we're seeing both the 2.4 gigahertz channels, 1, 9, which is not going to be helpful. 11, 1, 7, 4, 7. So right away I'm seeing that there are a lot of devices that are broadcasting on overlapping channels. Typically with our channels for the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, we want to see 1, 6, and 11 so we won't have any overlap. But you can see we have channels that are overlapping. And we'll take a little bit further glance into that when we actually look at the spectrum analysis for the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. You can see that the next column over is signals in dBm. So right now, this is sorted alphabetically by SSID, but check this out. So if I want to see which one's the strongest signals, I can click on this column and it'll show me the one with the least amount of signal first, but then I can click on it again and it'll show me those with the strongest signals. So now I've got to go up to the top of the chart to see those that are the strongest signals. And I can see, because it's displaying it in dBm, that's decibels to milliwatts, right? This is showing me a negative 42 for this SSID, so and now negative 39. So I would see that these 1, 2, 3, 4 radios are broadcasting with a are broadcasting very loudly, very high signal strength in for those 4 radios. So this is a really good way to see if you were attempting to connect to a device, you could see which one has the strongest signal output. And then it shows radio count, which I do see one device that has 2 on it. And so that means that this SSID is broadcasting from a device that has 2 radios in it. So the other ones are all 1. It shows me the physical type. So I can see that this is BGN. So I would know that right away that that's a 2.4 gigahertz signal that's coming off of there, because it's covering devices, physical types in the B, the G, and the N, as opposed to N only, which would be in the 5 gigahertz 802.11n. So these, the ones that are just displaying N, are the 5 gigahertz devices, obviously. And then it'll show security. So I can look and see if all of those radios have some type of security on them. And I can see that there's at least one that does not have. So our friends are opening up their radio so other people can use it. And then we have a minimum basic rate, which doesn't give us a lot of info. But then we have a max data rate. So we could see, for example, that this is a Eric and Nancy 2G. Looks like it is broadcasting in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, and its max data rate is 300 megabits per second. Okay, so there's a couple 300s in there, 450 down here on the TG67. So anyhow, this shows us the different information for specific radios. Now let's take a look at the real spectrum analysis part of it, and let's first look at the 5 gigahertz. So this shows us, I'm just going to broaden this out and make it a little wider, and I can go up to the view in InSSider, and I can disable the 2.4 gigahertz band for right now and just look and see what's in the 5 gigahertz band. So looking at the 5G spectrum, you can see that there's a lot of differentiation between between the Webb's 5G and the other 2 broadcasting signals. I've got this a little bit tall right now, but if I just shrink this down, I can see that it'll display the 3 different SSIDs, and actually we only see two because one of them is hidden. It does give us the the radio's MAC address if we click on it, because um, the real SSID. Oh, it says speed spaz, so maybe it's catching it right there. Or no, it just caught another one. Anyhow, I'm looking at it in a logical form. If I looked at the physical view, it would then show me the MAC addresses for all of those. And so since there's no SSID for this one radio, it just broadcasts the MAC address. But it shows that it's on channel 153. And Speedy Spaz 5G is on 153 also. So there's two that are broadcasting very close together. And then the Netgear is broadcasting 149 through 153. So it's a larger, you can see that it's larger. It's a 40 megahertz channel, just like the Web's is a 40 megahertz channel combining 44 and 48. Anyhow, let's go back to the logical view. Well, no, let's do this. Let's look at the Web's 5G, and if I click on the radio, I get some good information right up at the top here. So when I look at it, it'll show me, yes, that's my MAC address. Here's what the SSID is for that. And then I can see that it'll show me the radio signal for that, what channels there are that are being used, my max data rate. It doesn't show the vendor. This is a Ubiquiti radio, but it does attempt to show the vendor. It just must not be in their database. And it gives a recommendation. So it says, what channel would we recommend that you use? And it's saying 44. Well, since we are using 44, I guess we've chosen a good channel for our network. Now, I said that it's a 40 megahertz channel, and it has combined 44 and 48. If we look at the device itself, let's look at that device and see what it's broadcasting in. Let's take a look at the access point that's providing our coverage. It's a Unify access point, and this is a Unify controller running on a different computer that I've just used VNC to create a connection with that computer. But this shows the properties of this wireless LAN device. And it has two radios. It has a 2.4 gigahertz radio and a 5 gigahertz radio. So you can see that this access point, it's using an auto channel capability from the controller, and it has a 20 megahertz channel. Also, the transmit power for the 2 gigahertz radio inside this access point is set to medium. But the 5 gigahertz radio, we see that it's also sent to auto, and it is broadcasting in the 5 gigahertz range. It's broadcasting a 40 megahertz channel, and its transmit power is set to high. So if I need to come in and change anything based on what I see in my InSSider spectrum analyzer, I could come in and make changes on the access point through the Ubiquiti controller for this environment. Okay, so we see in InSSider our 40 megahertz channel. That's why it looks this wide and shows 44 and 48. And we see that it's far away from anything here. So probably going to have good throughput, good capabilities with our 5 gigahertz radios. Now, let's take a look at the 2.4, because the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum we saw was not nearly as clear. So let's look at 2.4, and we'll turn off the 5 and just give us an opportunity to look at the 2.4. And you can see there's quite a bit going on here. So We have all of the radios that are in that spectrum listed here. Right now, it's chosen a specific one. Let's look at it. We're looking at a physical. Let's look at it in logical. And you notice that you've got some good color delineation there. So it corresponds with this little color line just to the right. The SSIDs that are broadcasting in this house are the webs right here, and it's broadcasting on channel 1. And Eric and Nancy 2G is a different device, and it's broadcasting, let's see if we can tell. Let's see, we'll go to Eric and Nancy 2G, and it looks like it's on channel 11 through channel 7. So it's a 40 megahertz channel in the 802.11n in the 2.4 gigahertz. So let's see if we can see any more information about it. Let's see if we go to the physical and we click on Eric and Nancy. Let's look at the SSIDs. There we go. You can see it's also trying to show us some more information. If we look at this, it's got some lines there that we can see. And what it tells us is here's the information about the radio, the signal strength, so very strong signal strength. And it's saying that it's broadcasting channel 11 through 7, and that it's a 300 megahertz data rate. Okay. It also shows us co-channel APs. So interestingly, it's showing us this co-channel AP is very strong, but it is on a different channel. There's a little bit of overlap coming from LE. So we can also see that channel 6 is LE. Now, if we look at LE, let's take a look at LE, because LE is kind of a booger. Here she is. And you can see that Ellie is broadcasting right here. Although she's in blue, she's broadcasting from channel 9. So it's not a very strong signal right here, so it may not interfere too badly with us, but unfortunately it's going to broadcast across a wide spectrum because Ellie is broadcasting on channel 9. But if we look, we can see that she's not it's not a very strong signal on channel 9. We can see that it's at negative 83. So although it's going to cause some interference because the signal strength is so low, it's not going to cause interference too strongly on our selected radio, which was the Eric and Nancy radio. Okay. So you can see in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, there's quite a few radios, and this is rather common. So what could I do? What would be helpful if I wanted to connect? Let's look at this all. We're going to look at all of it again. And let's look at the strongest signal strength. So we'll rank these by signal strength from highest to lowest, which is really opposite because the number, although the number is lower, the signal strength is higher, right? So the closer we get to 1, the stronger the representation of the signal strength. So we have two strong networks, the Webs and Eric and Nancy 2G. So if I was looking at this and I wanted to choose a network, I could say, all right, those are the ones that I want to see, and let's look at it in logical. So we can get a name on those networks, because that's what's going to be broadcasting. So looks like strong signal coming from something that is a Netgear 34, and I can see that NG hub is actually stronger on channel 11 than the Eric and Nancy 2G. So now that I've conducted my site survey, I've discovered some good information, and how can I use that information to help me deploy my system within this house to maximize my throughput for the devices that I have? Well, I learned a couple of things. First of all, I've got the Web's 5G in the lower end of the 5 gigahertz spectrum, and it doesn't look like there's much interference at all for the Webs. So I'm going to direct most of the devices in my home to connect to the Web's 5G. And then for those that can't, I've got two networks in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum that they can connect to. One radio is that ubiquity access point that is broadcasting as the Webs, and it's on the lower end. And there isn't a lot of competing networks. You can see that they're lower output than the Webs. So I would direct them towards that channel 1 Webs. And I also discovered that within the house, this Eric and Nancy 2G is broadcasting off of a Netgear router, actually the main router for the house, but it's out of the box broadcasting on a 40 megahertz channel, which is not good. So I'm going to go in and reconfigure this Eric and Nancy 2G to be a 20 megahertz channel, and I'm going to see if I can't put the power down lower. It's a cheaper device, and you can't always tone them down. A lot of times they'll just broadcast at a strong dBm rate, but I'm going to attempt to bring that down to a lower power rate, and also just have it broadcast in a 20 megahertz channel bandwidth so it doesn't interfere with my neighbors as much. So two things. One is I'll be able to configure my radios correctly, and two, I'll be able to point my devices at the correct radios in order to get the maximum throughput with the least amount of interference. Okay, so that's the InSSider 4. Great little tool for $20 from MetaGeek. You can use it to do your site surveys. You can use it when you go to hotels to see what they're broadcasting on, and attempt to connect to the radio with the best signal for you. Love this tool. Use it all the time. Hope you can get used to it and enjoy the benefits of having good wireless networking. This has been Eric Weber, and thank you for your time.